Hey writers, as we start our lesson today, I want you to think about tool belts. A tool belt is something that a construction worker might use to put all of the tools that he or she needs in order to create or build something. There's lots of different tools in there, and they might use those tools at different times based on what they're working on. Did you know that writers have a writer's tool belt? You do. Writers have tools in a writing tool belt that help them at different parts of their writing process. Do you know what tools are in your tool belt? The anchor charts. We've been using a lot of anchor charts to help us to have tools to make our writing better. Today we're going to start by doing a very quick review of some of the charts we've learned and used over the last few lessons. The first tool in our tool belt was the heart map. Remember, this is where we kept track of all of the things that were near and dear to our heart. So we had a great way to start getting ideas for writing. Another tool in our tool belt was choosing a topic. The chart that showed us how to pick a topic, think of a story idea, and list the details across our fingers to see if we had enough to write a story. After that, we added this tool, how to write a true story. And we use this chart to help us remember how to pick a topic, say the beginning, middle, and end across pages, sketch what happens, and then write. Do you remember that tool? Another tool that was in our tool belt was when we had our drafting a personal narrative chart, and we remembered how to write the most important events and how to add those details that make our writing more exciting. We added the tool of introductions can hook your readers, and we were given 2 ways to hook our readers and draw them into our writing. Here's the tool that taught us how to use temporal words, those words that help us to make smooth transitions from one idea to the next. We had the tool of wrapping it up, where we had 2 ways that we could wrap up and close up our writing to make sure that it had a good sense of closure and a feeling of being done. Isn't it amazing all of the tools that we have as writers already in our tool belt? Today we get to add another chart to our tool belt to help us make our writing the best that it can be. The target that we have for today is this. I can revise my narrative writing by rereading my writing and making changes to the words in my story in order to make sure my writing is interesting and clear. So we're going to revise today. Revising your writing simply means you're going to polish it up. You're going to make some changes to it so that it sounds even better when you're done making changes. Today I'm going to teach you 3 changes that you can make to make your writing sound even better. The 3 changes are, you're going to add, you're going to remove, and you're going to change. Can you do that with me? Say add, say remove, and say change. The first way we can revise is to add. We can add words to add detail. So maybe adding describing words or sound words or words that tell a little bit more. So you might want to add some new words into your writing to make it sound better. Another way you can revise is to remove. You might be reading along and realize that the words you used don't make sense and you need to remove them. You need to take them out of that story so that it makes sense. And finally, you might revise by changing. You might change a word to make the story sound more interesting. For example, instead of saying shy, you might change it and make the word timid. Instead of saying scared, you might change the word and say terrified, because that's a more interesting word. The first thing you have to do when you're revising is you need to reread your story. That's how you're going to know what kind of story changes you need to make as you're revising. Let's take a look at my story. This is the story that I wrote about when I gave Scout his first bath. I'm going to reread the story. Go ahead and follow along with me. One hot afternoon this summer, I decided to take my dog Scout to my backyard and give him a bath. He looked up at me as I gently sprayed him with the hose. It made me feel bad. I spoke softly to him as I gently spread the soap on his fur. I was careful not to spray him hard as I rinsed him off. Now that I've reread, it's time for me to add, remove, or change to make my story even better. The first way I wanted to revise my story was to add words, to add some detail. So I looked back at this page and realized there was a great place that I could add some words to add detail. I said that Scout was looking at me, but I really didn't tell you how he was looking at me. So what I did was I made a little carrot. It's just a little shape that goes up and down, kind of like the top of a triangle. And I added these words, with his big, sad eyes. Now you know how Scout was looking at me. Listen how much better that sentence sounds. He looked up at me with his big, sad eyes as I gently sprayed him with the hose. Didn't adding words to add detail make it sound even better? Yeah, now you have a great picture of what Scout looked like. Next, I wanted to remove some words that didn't make sense. As I was reading, I realized that this didn't make sense. When I said one hot afternoon this summer, I decided to take him, my dog, Scout, that just doesn't sound right. I don't need the word him there, do I? So I just took my marker and I crossed it out. I removed the word that didn't make sense. Now listen to it. One hot afternoon this summer, I decided to take my dog Scout to my backyard and give him a bath. Doesn't that sound better? I removed the word that didn't make sense. And now it's time for me to change. I want to change a word to make it more interesting. I reread and looked for a word that might change so that my reader found my story interesting. Here's the word I found. First it said I was careful not to spray him hard, but then I realized I could change the word hard and use the word forcefully. Doesn't that sound better? It sounds stronger and more powerful. I didn't want to spray him forcefully, did I? So I crossed out the word hard and I wrote forcefully above it so that I knew that was the word that I wanted to change. Okay, writers, it's your turn to practice. I want you to choose one of the stories from your writing folder, and you're going to find someone in your home that can help be your coach. A coach is someone who encourages you to get better at whatever sport it is that you're playing. Well, today, they're going to be your writing coach. I want you to show them our revising checklist, where we've learned to add, remove, or change something in your writing to make it better. Work with your coach for just a few minutes to find one place that you can change something to make it better. Only take a few minutes. This isn't part of your independent writing task. And then come back to the Nearpod slide and hear what your independent task is for today. Okay, head off and find your coach and then come right back.